Whoa. Whoa. Good thing it's hard. Whoa. Hard boiled.
Alright guys, it's been a busy couple days. We're back on track. And I'm doing an After Effects render, so I got a couple minutes to talk about, just do a little journal entry. And basically today we were back at the office, the regular office, which was kind of fun to get back to the office. Ryan and I did some editing today. Well, that's all we did today, is a bunch of posts. So I'm just trying to get a jump on this stuff because lately we've been shooting during the day, editing at night, shooting the next day again. It's been pretty crazy, pretty busy, which is a good thing, good problem to have. But I want to talk about over the Easter weekend, I got to shoot with this sucker a little more. And here's a little news update on the trailer. I totally forgot to take some shots of it today, but after being backed into, they figured out it's been basically fixed. New axle, new fenders being put on. I'm supposedly getting it back tomorrow, but they have to have the fenders on order. So I'll be driving around kind of naked for a couple days because we're shooting on Wednesday. But so that's good. It's back to normal. What else was I saying? Also we found a buyer for the lovely Ursa. So my friend Dave's taking the sucker off my hands, which makes it so that I am open to being able to get the upgraded 4.6, which is exactly what we're looking for. Again, I'm just looking at the samples, I'm crossing my fingers, and there's more to talk about with switching systems. And the cool thing is, I'm kind of got my foot in both camps. I'm in the Blackmagic camp and the red camp still, which has made me also think about new lenses. And oh man, we could talk all day. We'll talk about lenses probably next time. But I just want to bring up some observations from using this camera a little bit, just shooting my kids again, because each camera has its own dynamic of shooting, especially how you're going to use it, how it works, and what you're going to do with it, because that really the nature of the beast is the best camera to have is the one you're going to use and the one that's going to be the best for the job. There's not one camera there's no killer app. There's nothing that's going to take everything and be the best camera for everything. But here are my quick observations. This camera, I am not a huge fan of using any kind of electronic lens system on this camera. For the main point being, the controls are so hard to access. And when I say hard, I don't mean like Sony menu hard. I mean just it's not set up to be a quick on the go, make it run fast kind of a system. Now, let me take one step back really quick. The electronic lenses will be fine in any kind of controlled environment when you're controlling the f-stop, you're controlling the lighting, you're controlling the pace of the shoot. But step outside of that with any kind of event, live, documentary, etc., type of situation where you're not in control of the exposure at all times, you're going to run into problems using electronic lens. Because as I was running around Easter shooting my kids doing the Easter egg hunt, two things that I noticed. First off, the dynamic range was quite a bit compressed compared to what I was used to shooting on the red. I need to pull it up the GH4 and look at its dynamic range compared to this. The problem is on the GH4 is when I'm shooting on it, usually it's a smaller, quicker running gun, where if I'm doing documentary stuff, I'm quick on the dial for the exposure, or I just leave it on auto sometimes and just dial it in. I know the shutter angle, I know the ISO I want to shoot at, and I let the camera then decide with documentary stuff what f-stop to shoot at, or I switch it around so it's deciding the ISO and I'm controlling the shutter speed and the f-stop. So anyway, GH4 does a really good job being auto for documentary stuff where I'm not too concerned about the quality of the image, the fidelity of the image. Anyway, back to this guy. So how you control electronic lenses with this are fast forward and rewind buttons, either on the outside or on the inside. And it's a step kind of a situation. So if I'm shooting my kid going from, or whatever situation, but this is what happened the other day, as you'll see in the footage, going from the shadows into the bright sunlight. And we were shooting in the worst conditions possible when it comes to exposure, because we had really cool golden hour sunlight coming in and really dark shadows. That hurt nice. And so I'm trying to get used to how this camera communicates those things. The histogram I found is the resolution on the histogram is a little bit low, so I can't really tell. I feel like I'm shooting really on the low end of things, and you get back into the computer and it has a lot more information than I think from the histogram. Zebras also, I'm not used to you can set it so when the highlights are gone, they're gone, like a 99% or 100% zebras. But again, some of that just takes getting used to the camera system. So anyway, back to what I was saying was, and this is gonna be a long video, guys, because I can talk about cameras all day long. I'm shooting in my kid in the shade. All of a sudden she runs into the light, and oh, she's overexposed, but I want to get the shot. I have to sit there and go click, 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 to try and change the f-stop. Now, solutions for that would be manual lens, where I could just whoop, 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 all day long. I'm quick on that finger with the manual lenses, or some kind of a variable ND, which would be a similar situation. You got to watch out for IR, infrared, and or UV not saturation, just not distortion. Anyway, it's another word for, anyway, it's garbage. So these sensors are pretty susceptible to infrared and UV stuff. So you gotta be careful if you're really stomping down on that ND. We'll talk about that more about later. But so that's really hard to then follow that action as they're going from light to dark. And the auto button, you can never really rely on those, especially on these cameras. They're not built to be run and gun. In my opinion, these cameras are not built to be run and gun. You don't know the situation kind of a camera. Now again, if you had a full manual setup, different story, but compared to like a Sony or a Panasonic, if you're using native lenses on those systems, they're gonna beat out this camera any day when it comes to functionality and shooting. Jump back to the image quality with being in controlled environments. Again, this is an awesome camera. So I shot over crank the entire time, just for fun, not the entire time, most of the time, and everything looks beautiful in that. So that was the negative. That was the only thing I could find that was very frustrating with this camera when shooting in that kind of situation. The positives were the viewfinder. If you invest in something like that, is awesome. Coming back to old school shooting, either on my shoulder or however, having a viewfinder, night and day. I forgot how much I love having a viewfinder. I did have on the Red, I have my small HD DP4, but having it be kind of a 2-in-1, it gets bulky. It's hard to kind of switch back and forth on the fly. Things like that. Where this guy, I love this viewfinder. It's got some really good, nice features. I love the false color and the zebras, or the focus peaking. The focus peaking on this camera is awesome. I love it. Which brings me to the LCD, which in the bright sunlight, I still could see it well enough not to focus by itself. But again, that focus peaking, they did a really good job incorporating that into the system. So I felt totally secure in sitting there, and none of this was out of focus because this camera really can't do that. It just does it off a contrast-based thing, which maybe you, in a controlled environment, you could just kind of hit the button once to test see if your distance is correct. I wouldn't even rely on it. Stick with the manual focus. So I felt confident in just following the action with the focus peaking, which again I could see in the sunlight as I was going along. If all you had was the LCD, I think you'd be okay. Maybe you put a hood on or something like that. Again, the form factor, holding it, flipping it around on the shoulder, back down. I just kind of felt like I was back in the olden days using one of the cool E&G cameras we used to use for sports and whatnot. So anyway, I'll put some footage up there. You can take a look at it. I'm sure I'll have it be throughout because I'm already 8 minutes on this video talking about camera stuff. Is my render done? Oh, my render's done, so I gotta get back. But anyway, yeah, so just again, manual lenses on any kind of thing we gotta move fast because this camera's not set up to change the exposure quickly. The red isn't as much either, but it is quicker to change. But again, these cameras, if you're using these cameras for anything, in my mind, but controlled environment situations, that's not what they're built for. They like to tell you that and they like to pretend like it is, but unless you have a manual lens system that you can be really quick on the trigger, you run into problems. All right, guys, I will talk to you later. I'm gonna cruise through this. We still got plenty of work to do, shooting on Wednesday, interviews. Maybe we'll show some of that, maybe we won't, I don't know, it's gonna be boring. And yeah, talk to you later.